Exhibit B. In 2002, the National Security Agency awarded SAIC a $280 million contract to design Trailblazer, a new computer system to help the spy agency better track electronic information. General Richard Hayden was then the director of the NSA.
A lot of the failure in the Trailblazer program was in the fact we were trying to overachieve. We were throwing deep, and we should have been throwing short passes, if you want to use a metaphor. And
the contract ballooned to over $1 billion, and in the end, it was abandoned. Bartlett and Steele note that William Black was in charge of Trailblazer for the NSA. Black had also served 4 years as a vice president at SAIC. The NSA said little about Trailblazer, but Bartlett and Steele uncovered a follow-up contract to produce a less ambitious upgrade of the agency's computer systems. Who got the $360 million payday? The NSA wasn't saying, but once again, Bartlett and Steele knew what to read. This time, an obscure corporate filing to the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Here is a list of their contracts, one of which is called, I don't know how you even pronounce this, EXECUTELOCUS, and then in parentheses, formerly Trailblazer Technical Development Program. They screwed up the first project, then they got a second project for the next stage.
Succeed or fail, it seems, there's always another payday for private contractors. It was something Bernice Stanfield King says she'd seen often during her time at SAIC.
We could just say, hey, we need some more money, and they just say, okay. You know, wouldn't it be wonderful if when you need some money, you just call up somebody and say, hey, I need some more money, and they say, okay. Well, that's essentially what's happening there.
As Bartlett and Steele note, although 9/11 was a tragedy for America, it was very, very good for defense contractors like SAIC.
What you see today is not just the military-industrial complex, but the military-industrial-counterterrorism complex. And this has got to be Eisenhower's worst nightmare, because now the spending is unlimited.
In the build-up to war in Iraq, the government awarded SAIC 7 contracts without competitive bidding. The contracts had a face value of over $100 million. But after budget overruns, SAIC would get far more.
If the camera is like this, the microphone...
One of the more lucrative jobs was to create a media network in post-invasion Iraq. Veteran newsman Don North was hired to train a new generation of Iraqi journalists to provide the nation with something it hadn't seen in 35 years of dictatorship: honest reporting. At first, says North, it was working.
You could go to a downtown cafe and you'd find everybody raptly looking at the news and being amazed that Iraqis were actually being interviewed on the street and could even complain or criticize the United States military or Ambassador Bremer and the Coalition Provisional Authority.
But soon it was hard to find pictures like these on the Iraq Media Network.
Camera over here. Point it over here, we're going to take the tape. We want jobs.
We started getting directives of what we were going to put on the air and what we were going to cover each day. And it would largely consist of Coalition Provisional Authority, press conferences, photo opportunities, endless press conferences with Ambassador Bremer. What the Coalition Provisional Authority and SAIC established was simply a propaganda station that followed the dictates and manipulation of the Bush administration.
The Defense Department Inspector General would identify numerous problems with SAIC's handling of the Iraq Media Network, but not before the contract ballooned to over $82 million of those no-bid dollars. In October 2006, SAIC went public, and Wall Street roared its approval. Within 2 weeks of opening, SAIC's stock price had jumped more than 30%. 4 months later, the old-school duo's 9,000-word investigation of SAIC appeared. It was the March 2007 issue of Vanity Fair, the Hollywood issue.
Well, this is probably the one time Bartlett and I are going to be on the same cover with Chris Rock and Owen Wilson.
Sometimes in James Bond movies or Superman movies, you see there's a moment when somebody pours acid on a piece of thick steel, and nothing can stop the acid until it goes all the way through. To me, the kind of reporting that Jim and Don do is like that acid. Once you set them going, they're going to go all the way through until they have found what needs to be found.
As Bartlett and Steele report, the revolving door just continues to spin at SAIC. Robert Gates, the current Secretary of Defense, during the 1990s, he served briefly on SAIC's board. And SAIC recently won one of its largest contracts ever. It's to help the Army revolutionize its ground combat forces. One of the key architects of the plan was Army General Daniel Zanini. Who does he work for now? A certain private contractor with deep ties to the national security establishment.